Welcome to Poetry with Shing, where we uncover the beauty behind poetry. In today's episode, we'll be looking at The Dead by Rupert Brooke and Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. We'll be answering the question, write a critical comparison of the following poems, paying close attention to ways in which language, style, and form contribute to each poet's portrayal of war. Without further ado, let's begin. Poem A, The Dead, by Rupert Brooke, carries a passionate tone towards war, as the poet displays his admiration for the noble cause of sacrificing for one's country during war, through his idealistic attitude towards the act of war and the price that has to be paid in war. On the other hand, Poem B, Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen, exudes a bitter tone of death and that of casualties caused by the war through his critical attitude of war. Both poems A and B are sonnets, albeit with varying rhyme schemes. In poem A, the use of the sonnet is to highlight the patriotic feelings of dying for a greater cause. In this case, for the country during the war. A sonnet is typically used to declare one's love, and hence the sonnet in poem A is a form of declaration of love by the poet for the country, thereby portraying an attitude of admiration for dying because of war and glorifies the act of war. On the other hand, Poem B uses the form of a sonnet as well, but in a starkly different way. So let me write this down, glorifying, but in a starkly contrasting way. Instead of as a way to declare love and patriotic feelings for his country, the poet makes use of the sonnet to lament and criticize the futility of war, as exacerbated by the inevitability of death during war. The use of the sonnet in poem A is thus an inversion of the purpose of a sonnet. So let's write that down, inversion of the purpose of a sonnet, hence reinforcing the negative idea that war brings sadness and is meaningless, with a large number of fatalities. In addition, the rhyme scheme is further used to bring out the contrasting tones and attitudes of both poets. In poem A, the rhyme scheme in poem A being A B B A C C C D is unusual for a sonnet, possibly explaining how declaration of patriotism for one's country through glorifying death in a war is indeed unusual, but still a declaration of love nonetheless. On the other hand, in poem A, the common sonnet rhyme scheme is adopted, bringing a rhythmic touch to the poem, reinforcing the idea of monotonous and repetitive act of dying in war, as suggested through the title of the poem being Anthem for Doomed Youth. With the rhythm, the characteristic of an anthem is further fleshed out, and echoes the marching of the youth who will join the war and inevitably die in the war. So there's this idea of a rhythm and inevitabilities. Furthermore, there is considerably fewer instances where punctuation is used in poem B as compared to poem A. Hence, poem B, when read out, will sound more rhythmic and monotone, with fewer pauses, evoking a feeling of foreboding as the youths march to war. Owen's take that war is a cursed endeavor is thus further exemplified. The vivid imagery also bring out contrasting attitudes of the poets towards war. In poem A, there are images of royalty and can be seen through word choices like king, holiness, and nobleness. So they are over here, holiness, that's the king, that's nobleness, implying that the poet views sacrifice through death during a war as an act of nobility and high honor. The use of these words associated with royalty not only bring out grandness in the image that the poet is describing, but these words' effects is also to glorify war in the poet's perspective. Similarly, there's the use of imagery in poem B, this time of light. The poet uses words such as glimmers, candles, and dusk to create a somber mood, as these words are often associated with sadness. So let's write that down, somber mood. The sadness is connoted through dusk, as it suggests that the light is waning, indicating the futile wait for the girls for the young men to return from war. In addition, light from candles are often faint, again reinforcing the idea that there is little or faint hope of the young men returning. Well, there is mention of, let me write the thing about candles down first. Not really sure. I can't really see it in this part. Alright, I spotted it. So the light from the candles are usually faint. So that highlights how this war may be futile because the there's some sort of like faintness in the light that is not usually as bright as a normal light. So there's little or faint hope of the young man returning. While there is mention of a divine value to the glimmers through the use of the word holy, unlike in poem A, where the image of divinity is used to glorify death in war, holy is used in poem B to foreshadow that the young men will most probably not return from the war. Hence the farewells that were bade and are as valuable and precious as divinity. Hence, through the use of imagery associated with light, poet B highlights the sadness that comes with the death of young men at war, and hence conveys his stand that war is futile and will inevitably lead to death. Furthermore, both poems use references to sound as a means of remembering the dead from the war, but with differing purposes that contribute to their perspective and attitude towards war. In poem A, the main symbol in the poem of bugles, as the poem contains blow out, you bugles, blow. Over here, blow, bugles, blow. The encouraging tone of the poet as he encourages the bugles players to blow the instrument suggests his enthusiasm towards sacrifice of soldiers during the war. In addition, bugles are simple instruments, yet as the poet encourages the bugles to be played, the simplicity of the bugles are valued. This reveals the poet's stand about war, as his valuing of the simplicity of the bugles can be a symbolism of the poet's belief that simple sacrifice for one's country during a war is a heroic act that must be valued, thereby once again glorifying war. On the other hand, the sound imagery in poem B paints a violent, brutal image of the battlefield. The poet uses stuttering rifles' rapid rattle over here to vividly describe the scene on the battlefield where many are killed by rifles. Instead of describing the glorious scene of remembering and paying tribute to the dead in poem A, poem B describes the images of a battlefield. Hence, poem B is exposing the harsh and cruel realities of being part of the war. The alliteration of rifles' rapid rattle, so there's an alliteration here, also highlight the repetitive and thus continuous act of the rifle opening fire, showing how death in war will keep happening inevitably, contributing to the poet's take that death in war is inevitable and futile. In conclusion, poem A glorifies death in war and the notion of war through its form and language, while poem B is harshly critical of death in war and sees it as inevitable and futile. Poet A has an idealistic view on war and chooses only to focus on the glory it brings to the country, while poet B is realistic in considering the human cost behind war and hence is bitter towards the idea of war. Alright, that marks the end of today's episode. Hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you and goodbye.